Welcome back, friends. So today we're going to be taking a look at the question of where the heck has Bethesda been in regards to Starfield? Why don't we have a trailer for the next DLC? It's set to come out in the fall. We should have seen something by now. Oh my god. Such a panic, you know? But this video's been made about 15 times over, and we're going to take a look at it. So we're going to look at a couple major players, one in the journalism side and one in kind of like the YouTube influencer side, and see how they are kind of answering this question. But first up, let's take a look at mrmattyplays.
Here for this update because a lot of people equate Bethesda's silence with them cooking. And unfortunately, I do have to be the bearer of bad news in one way on that regard. But we're going to talk.
That doesn't sound good. He's got to be the bearer of bad news. So this is apparently bad news when Bethesda's silent. But you know what? Let's let him continue on and kind of explain himself and where he's coming from here.
But what I'm going to do is put a pin in your balloon and say, look at the Fallout 4 Next Gen update. I think it's a perfect example of many of us Bethesda fans who think when they're silent, they're cooking, when really I think when they're silent, they're just figuring things the hell out. And it's actually their focus is somewhere else.
Oh, man. Showing some crazy footage there, some broken footage of Fallout 4. Now, I haven't played Fallout 4 in about 4 years, so I don't know its current quality or current state, but I do know what he's referring to is a current, like the next-gen update, and we're kind of talking about a DLC, not like a next-gen update, so this is very much like an apples and oranges comparison. But if you have more knowledge than me about the current state of like the Fallout 4 next gen update and would like to fill me in, please down below. Was his footage of like broken gameplay, is that an accurate depiction of the current state of Fallout 4, or is he being over the top and hyperbolic with that? But we're going to go ahead and kind of, let him cook a little bit and see where he's going with his argument here.
If you want to analyze the player count, there's two ways of looking at it. Shout out to Paul Tassi of Forbes because I didn't consider it this way until I saw his article. The first is like, how's it doing right this moment? And you see here, 5.8K player peak in 24 hours. Compared to their other games, Starfield isn't floating around this dramatically positive area given how recently it came out. That's all.
Oh man, he is analyzing the holy writs of Steam concurrent players. Let's see where he goes with this. So apparently we got 5.8 thousand Steam players. Let's see what he's saying about this.
The player count for now. Let's look historically at the last year. And you see the one big bump is in October 2024 because that's when Starfield Shattered Space was coming out. It saw a peak of 21K players, which is not a dramatic boost when you compare it to the all-time peak of 330K. And I think if Starfield Shattered Space was great, you'd see that line curving up a little bit before eventually falling back down.
So I think we've established that mrmattyplays is able to analyze a table over time. I think that's pretty good for, just a simple YouTuber. But he also mentioned Paul Tassi. And so Paul Tassi wrote a wonderful article about this. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at that as well. So it looks like our friend Paul Tassi is basically attributing this chart to the lack of a DLC trailer. Basically, there was not enough excitement around Shattered Space, and that the current player count is just substantially too low to necessitate a DLC. So this is a wonderful narrative that's been popping up as of late, that, Bethesda's just not going to make a DLC. So that I find that pretty interesting. We have basically this one data point, which is the holy writ of the Steam concurrent players. This is basically the gold standard of a game's popularity. But let's see what else Matty has to say about this topic.
Said that 5.8K player count, give or take, over multiple platforms, and it'll average different each day, and they're different people each of those days. Give or take, though, that player base can support Starfield a lot more than you probably recognize, because I think.
So mrmattyplays is trying to, I think he's misinterpreting the Steam chart as being cumulative amongst basically every platform, that there is 5.8 5.8k players on average that are playing this game, and those 5.8k players are somehow supporting the whole entire operation through their creations purchases. Now, this in itself I would take to be a very silly interpretation of a Steam chart, that there is only 5.8k players playing this game. Also, I think it's kind of like really ignorant of the demographics that are playing Starfield. Um, this is not taking into consideration people that are like playing through Nexus, they're playing offline, they're playing through Game Pass either on console or PC or both, because you can play on both. You buy this game on Xbox, you own it on PC as well. But if we take a look at this screenshot, which I took yesterday, that was on the 21st of June, and I went ahead and did the math between console and PC, we can see there's more console plays than there are PC plays, and I'd like to point that out. But if you take that and divide that amongst the number of days that has occurred since the game Watchtower was launched, Watchtower had an average of 36,000 plays per day. So, what does that tell us? That tells us that Steam Charts is only tracking a very small demographic of the Starfield players. This is a paid mod that was able to get 36,000 plays per day. So we can see, Steam concurrent player chart is really only looking at basically like a very small demographic of the Starfield community. Vast majority of people are playing this through Game Pass. They're playing it offline. They're playing it through means that are not being tracked by Steam. Now, when the game first launched, it might have been the case that a lot of people were playing this through means that were tracked by Steam, but players have moved since then. They're on Game Pass now. They're playing offline. They're playing through Nexus. They are not playing through a mechanism that is able to be tracked by Steam. That Watchtower screenshot right there illustrates how small of a size that we're capturing. This is basically the equivalent of saying a library is empty because one shelf is not full. It's really poor data science. And I will also illustrate that Watchtower demographic is not really a good way to measure how big the player base is, because there is a lot of people that refuse to play paid mods, so they won't get it no matter how good it is. There are people that refuse to play mods. They play only vanilla. God bless them, but I think you're hurting yourself by doing that. So we're not capturing the full player base, but we can still see that Watchtower was able to pull in an average of 36,000 plays a day for, a month and 5 days. That's pretty darn good. But you know what? Let's go ahead and move on to our next section here.
Yeah, if we're going to make any money off this game, it's going to be sales from the port, and it's going to be fan creations. And a lot of people are wondering, well, why are creations coming out if no one's playing the game? I'm sure, and I don't have any inside sources, but I'm sure the creators know about these ports, know they're on the way, and it's best to set up your library now, so when a new influx of players arrives, and we've seen these Xbox games ported over to PlayStation do well, or when it eventually goes to Switch too, those ports probably will also do well. These are just additional customers that might swing through your business and buy your creation if they really like Starfield. There's millions and millions of people on the planet, so
Okay, there's billions of people on the planet. I'm just going to assume he just misspoke there. We all misspeak. But I do have inside sources, and I'm just going to, let you know what they've said. No, we're not building portfolios for PlayStation release. Why? Because PlayStation, more specifically Sony, is likely to ban external assets, specifically anything requiring a BA2 file. In other words, 90% of mods. Until I hear official news otherwise, my expectation is that PlayStation will do very little for modding. I happen to agree with this sentiment, very much so, and, they're not making stuff for PlayStation, because historically PlayStation has been very restrictive on their mods. Now, if there is an upcoming port, and I say is because we do have reason to believe there will be, but it's not beyond a reasonable doubt yet. So I would still be a little hasty on assuming that it's going to port to PlayStation. But if it does, money does talk, and we're more than likely to see potential negotiations on what type of content is allowed. One of the factors I wasn't able to get a comment on from mod authors was that there's money involved. If the sale of creations happens on PlayStation, guess what that means? Sony's going to want a cut of that money. So like, this is a very complicated problem. The mod authors do not know anything about any kind of PlayStation port itself, and I don't they're basically speculating like me or you, except their commentary on the whole matter is a lot better than yours. But yeah, I would not say that it's a sure thing. I would say that we do have real good reason to believe that it is happening. So here is more from that article from Paul Tassi. And basically right here, he is stating that mod authors are leaving Starfield because of lack of support by Bethesda. So we're just going to say that this speaks to the contrary of reality. In reality, the most recent update, majority of the things that they were changing pertain to the creation kit itself. Like they expanded what was it? They expanded the creation size up to 2 GB. They also did several things like, adding the ability to add like custom icons, etc., etc. Like you can read the patch notes. Not going to read them to you, but there was a lot of changes to that. So like that's just not true. This whole narrative of like mod authors leaving Starfield, is based around the mod author for the community patch. He stated a couple months back in the Bethesda Discord that he was leaving the community patch because he recently got a puppy. He's kind of really busy and he doesn't have the motivation to work on the community patch anymore. Nowhere in that post did he say it was due to lack of support by Bethesda. So, like, I don't know where this is coming from. Like, if he could cite a mod author, that would be great, Paul. If you could cite a mod author, that would be great, Paul. You can reach out for comment, Paul. They don't bite, Paul. They will talk to you, Paul. And then we can also look at recent releases and see that this really isn't true. We have a recent release from Kingsgrath, which was very popular, by the way. Watchtower, you can go back to the last demographic and see that. So, like, this is just really not even close to what reality is. And Paul Tassi, who is a journalist for Forbes, by the way, he should know better, and he should also know that that Steam chart is really not a good measure for popularity within a game. He tries to argue that, fluctuations in the Steam chart kind of can show trends. Maybe, but like, what percentage of the player base is it actually representative of? Is it 10%? Is it 5%? Is it less? I don't even know. I don't have the slightest clue, and nor does Paul Tassi. The only people that do know is Xbox and Bethesda. So, like, the people using, like, Steam charts to kind of assess popularity on here, this is just drama baiting in its basest form. Like, Paul Tassi is not an actual journalist. He is a drama hound. That is what he's doing. He's doing the exact same thing he did when Starfield first came out and he gave it a 9.5. He's drama baiting. He's going over the top. And that's what this is. And this is basically, like, he's misinforming his reader base that might think this is an actual, like, journalistic article here, and it's not. Like, it doesn't really have much information in it. It has a Steam chart that we've all seen 1,000 times, but I've already illustrated that Steam chart is, like, basically useless, especially when a single mod can show a six-fold larger section of the player base than it can. So, like, it's kind of a garbage metric, and Paul knows that. He's not stupid. He's sitting there trying to drum up clicks on his news article so he can get paid. I understand it. We're all trying to get paid here. Actually, I'm not trying to get paid here. I have a day job that makes a lot better money than YouTube. I've already worked it out. I'd probably have to have as many subscribers as Matt Mr. Matty Plays just to basically quit my day job because, I make pretty decent money at it. But the one thing I don't do at my day job is I don't bullshit people. I tell people the freaking truth. And the freaking truth is we don't have a good metric for measuring game popularity for Starfield. Like, if Starfield was not available on Game Pass, I would say, yeah, Steam's probably a pretty good metric for it. But here's the thing, it's available on Game Pass, so it's actually a pretty bad metric for it, because Steam is probably representative of a very small percentage of the player base. And that's just the way it is. But you know what? We're going to go ahead and move on and talk about what the likely reason is why we did not see the Starborn DLC at the Xbox Showcase. So Mr. Matty, he brought it up first by saying, hey, they're probably tying this to a PlayStation port. And I do agree with that, though I'm not going to go out on a limb and say that a PlayStation port is a sure thing. I think I've already clearly stated we do have reasonable belief for that. So, and it would make sense to not, show a PlayStation port at an Xbox Showcase. But there's another reason why we probably have not seen the trailer, and I'll explain why. The big reason why is that the voice actors were on strike and they just recently returned back to work. A trailer without any voice acting would not be a very good trailer, and I think Bethesda knows this. They were in negotiations with the voice actors union, and sitting there and telling the entire fan base of like their video game genres that, like, hey, the reason we don't have a trailer for you at the Xbox Showcase is because the voice actors union is dragging their heels would not have been a very good negotiation tactic and probably would have pissed them off. So, like, I'm glad they're back to work. I understand why Bethesda did not discuss this with the fan base, probably because, like, legitimately they can't sit there and be like, hey, we don't have a trailer because we don't have any voice acting done because the union's on strike. Like, they legitimately can't do that. But also, Mr. Matty Plays, he did make some good points that there is probably going to be a PlayStation port tied to this. Well, he said it was a sure thing. I'm not going to go as far as saying it is a sure thing. I'm going to say it's very probable. They're probably still in negotiations, and this stuff can fall through. So, like, they might have the intent of porting it over, but, like, how it gets ported over, what are the conditions for mods? Like, these are all open questions. We don't know. Like, how viable is modding going to be on, like, a PlayStation opposed to, like, an Xbox or a PC? These are all very major questions, and if it does get the freedom that the mod authors have on the Xbox on PlayStation, like, what's the money going to look like? Is, like, PlayStation going to be taking a large portion of the money? Is it not going to be a viable thing for mod authors to even release on PlayStation because, like, it's all getting gobbled up by them? So these are questions that are, like, really unanswered right now and not known. Like, the mod community does not know this. So those are the two most probable causes right there. Is one, there's no voice acting for a trailer, and two, they're probably tying this to a PlayStation port, and they didn't want to do it at the Xbox Showcase because that doesn't look great for Xbox. But, like, hey, we're releasing content on PlayStation. So it's probably going to happen at Gamescom. Potentially, the DLC release could be delayed due to the voice actor strike. I don't know how much work they're able to get done on the voice acting front between now and then, and how much game development they're able to get done with the voice actors on strike. I would imagine that they'd be able to do most of the game development even with the voice actors on strike, and then just plug in the voice files after the fact. So those are my thoughts on this, but let's hear a little bit more from Mr. Matty on what this whole DLC might look like.
Getting their fans involved and releasing good stuff is you got to pay for it. It's a lot different now, where if you look at the free mod scene for Starfield, there are overhauls like Star Wars Genesis, which I do want to try out because it's kind of what I wanted from Starfield in the first place. It turns Starfield into a Star Wars game. But otherwise, those free updates are more like quality of life enhancements. There's nothing dramatic because I can't blame the modders. Why wouldn't you want to go collect your bag here, especially...
Good God, why does he mock poor fellows thus? This is really insulting to, like, the modding community that does release a lot of free mods. Like, you can get gameplay overhauls, you can get stuff that adds more points of interest to the procedural generation, you can get story mods, you can get them all. I highly suspect that mrmattyplays is basically a victim of content churn, that he's trying to constantly put out a new video and he can't do proper research on things. And I don't think he spent more than 5 minutes looking at the creations in the creation store. They're just no way. Like, if you spent more than 5 minutes looking in the creation store, you're bound to find some really good free creations there. Like 90% of the creation store is free mods. Like, I know tons of people that refuse to pay for mods. They absolutely refuse to pay for mods. And they're also the people that are playing with like 300 and 400 mods on their freaking load order. Like, this is just like... This is contrary to the truth. But I'm going to go ahead and self-promote here. So my next video coming out is going to be on the community ship expansion. This is a free mod. It was built by Downfall Nemesis, and he's using ships from the Starfield community. He's got over 350 ships that are being injected into the game, and this is going to flesh out the procedural generation of space and give you more variety of ships that you're going to be encountering with. So I'll be doing a full review of that. Free mod, by the way. Really loved like this community-centered activity where he's using stuff submitted by the community and giving it out for free. So like, you can reach out for comment from mod authors, Mr. Matty. Like, they will reply to you. I assure you that. I've never been left on red by a mod author. It's just never happened. And it's you know, it's kind of frustrating, like, being in like the Starfield community, and I really don't want to be sitting here having to report on the news, but I have to because, like, people do just such a bad job of this. All right, so let's go ahead and summarize this video. This has been kind of fun to make, but we didn't see anything at the Xbox showcase. The likely reason for this is due to no voice acting for a proper trailer to be made due to the union strike. And then two, there's likely going to be a PlayStation port. That PlayStation port does raise some interesting questions about what type of content is going to be allowed creation-wise on PlayStation. And two, like, how's money going to work for the PlayStation creators. And then we also have a little bit of insults to the modding community coming from both Paul Tassi and mrmattyplays. The first one is that mod authors are leaving in droves due to lack of support by Bethesda. This is based all around one data point. Paul, you have quite a trend there with your one data point, by the way. And then our mrmattyplays says that basically there is no good free content and that mod authors don't offer anything up for free that is good. This is not true at all. 90% of creations on the creation store are free. And both of these could have been dispelled if either one of these people reached out to mod authors for comment. This is like a normal journalistic practice, reaching out for mod authors for comment. I will also let you know, I've never had a mod author leave me on red. Apparently they are intimidated by my 1,500 subscriber count. So Mr. Matty, with your 600,000 subscriber count, I'm sure you could get a response from them if you wanted to. And also Paul Tassi, with your like 200,000 follower count on Twitter, and having press credentials, I'm very sure you could have reached out to some modders before you like published a bunch of bullshit about people, mod authors, like leaving in droves. Mod author, and he left in a drove. But like, this is just really silly commentary. and it's just really not true of like what's going on in the modding community. They're quite excited about the future, to be honest, but I'm going to go ahead and leave it here. Have a good night as always.